Now then, off-grid fans, I thought while I'm here just getting ready to disappear for the year, a lot of people always want to see what my battery looks like. I used to have a intro that had a picture of the battery. Hi, I'm Kev, trying to live off-grid in my 1995 Mercedes motorhome. 6 solar panels, over 2 kilowatts, charging this awesome self-built 12 kilowatt hour lithium pack. I'm building mountain bike trails, I'm running mountain bike events, Freyja's along for the ride. I'm solar powering my life while I'm off-grid and working hard. In there, but people wanted to see what it actually looks like in the van, and talk people through it. So I thought, while I'm here just cleaning and everything's off cushion wise, then I thought I'd take you a tour. Now, I think that this system possibly was the most powerful 12 volt campervan system in the UK. I got it in 2019. It's had mild improvements over the course, but the base of it, the 6 panels, the battery, that's been there from the start. So this is where the battery sits. As you can see, it's not particularly big. You can see there's 6 cells lined up that way, and then 4 this way for 24 cells, and 100 amp BMS. Now this is configured so that all of the charging and DC goes through the BMS, but the inverters link directly to the battery itself, but everything goes through the smart shunt. So the inverters, which draw hundreds of amps, don't go through the 100 amp BMS, but the charging, that goes through the 100 amp BMS. And then for safety, the inverters have a low voltage disconnect, so they obviously, the charging is obviously, you don't want to overcharge cells. That's where you will get cell damage. That all the charging goes through the BMS, well, not the charging from the inverter, but that's set at a low voltage where it won't sort of charge above 80%, because I don't need that. And then I have a small 30 amp charger that does go through the BMS for sort of top balancing. But here is my massive 100 amp MPPT. EPFA's worked fine. If I was buying again, I would definitely buy Victron, just for the connectability with the servo, even though I've got another smart shunt on this. The extra stuff you can get with the Victron into the servo is immense. So I then have two inverters. So this 2000 volt amp, which is sort of 1750 watts or something, then that is on all the time. And then in the summer I run half of the stuff through the 3000 watt inverter. And yeah, in winter I can run everything through the 2000 watt, and I don't have 2 inverters going and using power. But it just means you can only do one thing at once. So if I want to make my coffee in the morning, which involves boiling the kettle and putting some milk in the microwave, I have to do them one after the other. And with the 3000 watt inverter, I can do both them at the same time, while the 2000 watt can do whatever. And then when we're running the events, and the timing runs off the Victron, and the catering runs off the G&L 3000 watt. And the G&L, they're about as cheap as I would go on an inverter. Anything less is garbage in my mind, but the G&Ls, as far as a low frequency inverter goes, you're not going to get much better. But possibly can't see it, but down underneath there is a Victron Protect, which you're not supposed to connect to inverters, but it works. I didn't know you weren't supposed to connect it until I've been using it for a year, and it just works. So that's my low voltage cutoff for the G&L, and yeah, that works fine. That green light is my old logger for this. So for people who've been watching the channel for a while, maybe in 2021 I did a video on solar through the year and how it drops off in the winter and plenty in the summer, and all that data came from the EP Ever logger. But because I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to the servo, which logs everything and sends it up to the internet, and also like the servo also connects to various temperature probes, and at some point I will get round to fitting a level sensor in the water tank. So my inside water tank is under here, underneath that setup there, and then my other water tank is behind this wall here, and then I have another one below the floor. But yeah, it's all looking very empty. This is actually, it's been a bit weird since I got this van in 2019. I've basically lived in it, and the last 2 months I haven't. So that's been a bit weird. Maybe I'll do a video on what it was like living in a house again for 2 months after 5 years. But the basics of that are less drafty and quieter, with less sort of noise from the outside, wind, rain, whatever. But yeah, and it took me a bit to get used to having sort of unlimited water and stuff like that. But yeah, there it is. There's my 900 amp hours of lithium, 12 kilowatt hours, 100 amp MPPT, the servo, and my 2 inverters. And yeah, it's all fused up, everything is sorted, and actually for the first time in 5 years, I'd bought this. I actually bought it when I was cleaning out. I found this 5 amp balancer, so I connected it up here and I ran it for an hour the other night and balanced my batteries. So yeah, but that's the first time I've needed anything other than the BMS 50 milliamp balancer, passive balancer, in 5 years. So yeah, don't get too hung up on balancing. As long as you've got good cells, then everything will work. So yeah, quick changes for the van for this year. I've got a new fridge freezer. It's exactly the same as the other one, apart from it is basically one freezer shelf taller. The other one was a 50-50 split, and this is a bit bigger, but it's a 60-40 split, so even more freezer space, because for me the freezer space is the main thing that helps me hide in the woods and not need anyone or anything for for a month or so at a time. So yes, new fridge freezer, nothing in it really at the moment. Well, just some things to give the fridge something to cool. So I have got to actually lift it out, because I took a shelf out and put one up there, and I managed to put one behind here. So as you can see, I need 2 shelves, and I've only got one because it's behind there. But yeah, that's a quick tour of possibly the most what am I after? The most powerful 12-volt campervan system in the UK from a few years ago. I think a few people have caught up now, although most of the people going for similar size are going 24 volt or 48 volt. But there are a few people with 15 kilowatts rather than 12 kilowatts, and other people who can do 5 kilowatts from one inverter rather than me doing 5 kilowatts over 2 inverters. But this has just worked since I bought everything in 2019. This has just worked flawlessly for all of that time. So yeah, I think I think 5 years, if I'd have had AGMs or flooded acids or whatever, I don't think they'd have just been working like these have just worked and get ignored. So yeah, but anyway, that's my setup. Not the neatest. Maybe at some point I will rewire it with a friend. I've got a few friends who are anal enough to do a neater job of wiring this up, but probably when I swap to Victron MPPTs and probably put the MPPTs up here in this cupboard rather than this just being the wiring cupboard. Maybe I'll do it then, but we'll see. Anyway, well done Off-Grid fans, getting to the end. Do that like and subscribe thing. I should really try and be a YouTuber and ask people to subscribe. So yeah, please do that, and thanks for watching. Maybe I'll be back with more interesting content, although this year is looking very busy, particularly at the start, so I will always prioritise work over frivolous YouTubing. But cheers, thanks very much.